Hello, I'm Alex Pat, and welcome back to another edition of Wrigleyville Times. Those Cardinals. Those stupid, successful, never lose Cardinals. I'm sorry. Let's continue. So, the Cubs are in a little bit of a funk, as you all know. Up to the date of Saturday, 6/27, they have lost 4 straight games. 2 to the Dodgers to end that 4-game series, so they split it 2-2. And 2 losses so far in 3-game series against the Cardinals. Now, let's take a minute to wind back and look at what the Cubs have done since Monday, June 22nd. So, they were riding pretty high, winning the first 2 games against the Dodgers, including winning games in which the Dodgers started Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke. You feel like you're on top of the baseball world when you do that kind of thing, and then things kind of went down from there. Now, we all know that this team is young. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to see some highs. They're going to see quite some lows. That's what you get when you have a young core. But what's frustrating is that a lot of this is happening against our biggest rival, the Cardinals. I'm sorry, I can't say that name with a straight reporter-like face. I have to cringe and feel nauseous and all sorts of jealousy why it seems like no matter what, their whole starting roster could get hurt, and no matter what, they will still find ways to win, and no matter what, they can't be stopped or can't lose or do anything else. I'm sorry. Anyway, if you look at it overall, the Cardinals truly are an unbeatable team, especially at home. If we look at the 2 records of the Cards and Cubs, as of Saturday, the end of the game Saturday evening, so after the 8-1 shellacking in St. Louis, the Cubs are 39-34, so still above 500. And in many other divisions in baseball, they'd either be leading or right kind of knocking on the door just a few games back. But in a division with the St. Louis Cardinals, yeah, their current record at 50-24 going into Sunday the 28th. Best record in baseball, only team at 50 wins. That's kinda hard to catch up to. And what makes this so frustrating is that we know we're losing ground. Yes, we're still in the wild card race, but you still want to keep up with them. The Cubs really want to show that they're legit by beating their biggest rival and probably the favorites to win it all right now. We know the Cubs aren't fully there yet. We know that there's a few pieces missing. We know we need another starter. We know we need some more bench players. And we know we need to develop other prospects like Kyle Schwarber a little bit, who looked great in his week in the big leagues when he DH'd. But losing these games like this constantly to the Cardinals, it's frustrating. You don't want to lose your biggest rival like this. I mean, heck, the way the Cardinals are beating the Cubs, it kind of feels like, if you compare it to other Chicago rivalries, it kind of feels like the Bears and the Packers, where the Bears get embarrassed by the Packers every year since probably 2010, really, since the NFC Championship game that year. So the starting pitching, which was really good over that good run the Cubs had, it's been very up and down. Obviously, with Roach in his first career start not going so well against the St. Louis Cardinals, you almost want to say you're not surprised. But really what's been struggling the past week is the offense. The offense it's almost non-existent. In the past 47 innings, they've only scored 10 runs, and those 47 innings span from the 22nd to the end of the game on the 27th. So 47 innings, 10 runs, yeah, that's not a lot. Several games, they've scored 2 or less. The frustrating is, in a lot of those games, they've had a lot of hits, they've had a lot of men in scoring position, they had many opportunities to score, however, not cashing in came back to bite them. They were in a lot of those games. There were several close games, but they just couldn't cash in the runs to get it in. It is kind of funny that in that span, the most runs that the Cubs scored were against Clayton Kershaw in that game against the Dodgers, that is really kind of mind-boggling. It's really quite surprising. Now, as bad as the Cubs have been a lot of the years, they have played the Cardinals decently well. Sure, the Cardinals have had the upper hand overall, but the Cubs have played some pretty good games. This year, the Cubs-Cards rivalry really has not looked very even. It's pretty lopsided towards the Cardinals. So far, through Saturday, June 27th, the Cubs are 2-6 versus the Redbirds, and the Redbirds have outscored them 41-25. So that's almost double of what we scored. We saw many games where the Cubs were in the game or leading, and they lost the lead late. We've seen plenty of other games where the Cardinals just scored runs in bunches, and the Cubs were never really in the game. It feels like the Cubs have to be absolutely perfect against them. One little mistake, and the Cardinals will exploit it and will lose. And that's certainly been the case. After this series, the Cubs play 10 more games against the Cardinals. And only 3 of them left in St. Louis. So that's kind of a nice thing, as if St. Louis seems to be like Nightmare Park against us. Nothing seems to go right for the Cubs in that park. Granted, sure, they've won games there in the past, some pretty epic wins, but overall, it just seems like nothing, no fate is on their side. Everything is pro-Cardinals, and it gets frustrating. You see them win year in, year out, and you know they're not going to have a bad season. Like I said earlier, their players could get hurt, they'll still find a way to win. Right now, Holiday's hurt, Adam Wainwright's hurt. It doesn't matter, they still win games. It's insane. Best record in baseball. They could win well over 100 games this year. They could win like 110 games at this rate. I mean, sure, technically they could go on a big losing streak, but right now you just don't see it. And I think it's fair for me to say that the Cubs probably won't look to contend for a division lead, but if they will contend for the playoffs, it's going to have to be via wild card, because catching the Cardinals just seems like an impossibility, especially when you can't beat them when you're 2-6 against them. So that's really all we have to say for this right now. Again, we have more series against the Cardinals coming up, but it's not going to be for a few weeks, luckily. Frankly, I wish somehow all those games against the Cardinals would just go away and we wouldn't have to play them ever again, but that's obviously not going to happen. So for now, just hope the Cubs can really get on a streak again, get Jorge Soler healthy again, get the lineup back, get the lineup scoring runs again, and hopefully, we'll be able to finally stick it to those Cards. I'm Alex Pat, Wrigleyville Times.